Chapter 878. Wilbur knew that there was no refusing at this point and could only agree to meet them. He then made the call to Eileen as planned, to ask about the person with the antique. Eileen said that the guy had left the antique behind upon hearing that Wilbur was not in and left in a hurry. The guy had asked Wilbur to head to Keenan City in Lul province once he was back, and that it was urgent. Wilbur did not know what to say to that. Was this guy not worried in the slightest that Wilbur might not be able to do anything, or if he turned out to be a scammer? Maybe he really was at the end of his wits. Wilbur had an appointment to go to first, though. He left the plane with a frown, calling a cab to head straight to Castleberry. Wilbur could not help but be plagued by his curiosity along the way. Who was this person to bring about the company of Oren Campbell himself? Just then, however, a loud thump could be heard. It turned out that the cab had been rear-ended. The driver scrambled to brake, sweating nervously. Wilbur could not help but sigh. What rotten luck he had to have to run into something like this. Wilbur and the cab driver then got out of the car. The car behind them was a super sports car. The hood of the car was raised from the impact of the crash. Its bumper was crushed, and the engine was smoking. The trunk of the cab was completely dented as well, the bumper having fallen off onto the ground. Both cars were pretty badly damaged. Just then, a man and a woman came of the sports car. The man was dressed from head to toe in designer clothes with a designer watch to match. He had a hand on his forehead that seemed to be bleeding. The lady was young and beautiful. Despite the fact that it was already fall, she was still dressed pretty revealingly. She was also clutching her foot, crying out in pain. Wilbur said at once, "I'll pay the fare right now, sir. I'm in a hurry." The driver was about to say something when the man came over and punched the driver in the face. "Are you fucking blind? Look what the fuck you did to my car." The driver was sent into a daze from the punch. A beat later, he said, "You rear-ended me. This isn't my fault, but yours." "My ass it is. Do you know how much this car costs? Do you know who my father is? Get me a new car, or your family's going to die," the man in the designer clothes said cockily. The driver was scared out of his wits. He had never met someone this rude and entitled before. The man was already making a few phone calls, shouting, "Come over to Jewel Road this very instant. Someone's hit my new sports car." He then pointed at the driver viciously. "Just you fucking wait. I'll make sure it's more than your family who's paying." The man's rage scared the driver to his core, and he looked over at Wilbur. "You need to be my witness, sir. He was the one who rear-ended me." Wilbur was already looking at this man coldly. Wilbur was going to be on his way, but this man's cockiness had angered him. He was related to this whether he liked it or not. There was no way the poor driver would be able to handle this guy. Anyone who could drive a sports car worth millions had to be quite wealthy. Wilbur was about to give this man a piece of his mind when the man glowered at Wilbur first before saying, "What the fuck are you looking at, huh? I'll kill you too." Wilbur was honestly quite surprised. He had honestly never met someone who went around threatening to kill people just like this. Was there something wrong with his head? It seemed like he had been spoiled from a young age, and that had morphed into something much uglier when he was older. Wilbur came up to look at the man. "I don't believe you. Wanna try killing me then?" The man paused for a beat. Wilbur's gaze somehow made him cower a little. Just then, however, the girl sitting on the ground and clutching her leg cried out woefully, "Mr. Grayson, my leg's all hurt and this guy's still yelling at me. What are you gonna do about that?" The man shouted at once, "Don't worry. My boys will be here right away. These bastards are going to get it." The driver took out his phone shakily, preparing to call the police. Yet the man grabbed the phone viciously, aiming a kick at the driver and spitting, "Who the fuck said you could make a call, huh?" The driver was knocked onto the ground in a sitting position, fearing for his life. "How dare you hit him? Are you looking to get beaten up?" Wilbur shouted. "Mr. Grayson, he's still yelling at you," the girl piped up.